Hello, I have a new one-of-a-kind recipe that I am so excited to share with you. And don't worry, this is not another butternut squash recipe. These here are honey nut squash. They're winter squash that are about half the size of butternut squash but significantly sweeter. When I tell you that these are my new favorite squash, you will see why. These are going to be Twice Baked Honeynut Squash, and I am telling you, you are going to love it. You want to start off by cleaning the squash first, of course, and then cutting them in half. You are going to clean out the core of the squash. You can save it for later to make a puree or roast the seeds if you'd like. If you find these at your grocery store, I recommend buying more than you think you'll need because they run out very fast and you are going to wish you had more. So I'm starting by drizzling some rosemary infused olive oil on a baking sheet and then spread that out lightly. You can use any olive oil or any type of oil you'd like. You just want to make sure the squash does not stick to the bottom of the pan. I'm placing them face up first just so that I'm able to season them, and then I will place them face down to bake. In the meantime, you can start preheating your oven at 400 degrees. Now let's season these little guys. I'm starting off with some salt. Feel free to put as little or as much as you need. And then I'm going to sprinkle this new favorite herb blend of mine. I have been using it on anything that I can since fall started. It's a flavorful blend of thyme, marjoram, savory, rosemary, basil, sage, and lavender. You can also use fresh herbs if you'd like. Look how beautiful. You can see the lavender, you can see all the different herbs in there, and it just smells so amazing. Then I'm going to add some freshly cracked black pepper. Feel free to add and season with anything else that you would like to taste. Make sure you have the squash facing down on the baking sheet before placing in the oven. I'm going to let these bake for about 25 minutes. You don't want them to get too soft. You still want to make sure they have somewhat of a form when they're done baking. Here is what they will look like after 25 minutes. Go ahead and let them cool before handling, and we're going to move on to the mixture. This mixture is what we will be stuffing the squash with. I have mushroom, garlic, onion, celery, carrots, sweet potato, and regular potato. I am using Impossible meat for this recipe. It is a plant-based meat. Feel free to use Beyond Meat, soy crumbles, tempeh, or you could just take it out altogether and just use the potatoes and veggies. I'm adding in my onion, celery, and carrots. I'm using a little bit of olive oil, and I'm going to cook this down all together to get the mock meat a little flavored. If you're going to be using any lentils or any other meatless meat products, you still want to do this step before adding in the potatoes. I'm breaking it all down and making sure that it cooks well together. Now I'm going to add in 1 medium sweet potato that I diced up and 1 medium golden potato that I diced up. Feel free to use 2 sweet potatoes if you'd like, or you can use 2 white potatoes. Give that a really good mix, and then you're going to want to cook this all down for a while until the potatoes are softened, the meat is flavored, and all the other veggies are softened as well. I'm adding in the mushroom and garlic towards the end so that they're not cooking as long. And now I'm going to flavor all of this with some Worcestershire sauce. This one is vegetarian. some balsamic vinegar. I'm just eyeballing these, but if you like measurements, I'd say about 2 tablespoons each. And now I'm adding a pinch of salt. Some fresh cracked black pepper, and my favorite herb blend. I grabbed a few fresh leaves of kale from the garden. I'm going to chop these up, turn the heat off, and then add it into the mixture. You can use spinach instead if you'd like, or you could even use some fresh herbs such as parsley, basil, sage. Now that the squash has cooled, we are ready to scoop all the insides out. I want to show you how beautiful these squash are and just how buttery they are, how creamy, how smooth and velvety. Look at this texture. It is unreal. It's like a cloud, and it is just everything you would want a squash to be. So go ahead and scoop out the insides. You still want to make sure you leave some of the squash in there though. We are going to be using this in the mixture, but I still want to make sure that when you go to scoop out the mixture from the squash, you get a bite of the squash on its own as well. So here I'm adding the roasted squash into our impossible meat and potato mixture, and I'm showing you how much I'm leaving in the squash itself. Get it all in there and then mix it all up very, very well. This is going to be the stuffing for the Twice Baked Honeynut Squash. Just look how vibrant and delicious the squash looks. I just cannot. So now I'm going to add some maple syrup to the mix, probably about half a tablespoon. And then I'm going to sprinkle some cinnamon because I love to put cinnamon on almost any squash recipe that I use. It just adds this special little kick to it. You gotta try it if you haven't yet. You can also use honey instead, agave, coconut nectar. If you don't have honey, anything to sweeten it just a little bit. And then there's the mixture that is fully cooked and ready to go back into the squash. I am going to stuff these good. I made sure to use every bit of the mixture, and it ended up being perfectly enough. I wish you could just smell what's inside this video. These squash are my ultimate favorite. I am determined to try to grow them in my own garden next year because they're that great, and I instantly regretted not buying more when I went back to the store and saw that they were completely sold out. I found some at Whole Foods. They were pretty pricey. Obviously worth it, but I'd rather try to grow my own and just have way too many to eat next year. Now that that part is over, I am sprinkling some Italian breadcrumbs on top. Of course, you can sprinkle some Parmesan cheese, mozzarella, anything that your heart desires. I'm using breadcrumbs today, and I did make sure to leave my oven on because these are going back in for about 10 minutes until your cheese or breadcrumbs get a nice golden brown color to them. You can also just set them on the broiler setting for about 5 minutes if you're brave. I'm never brave enough. I feel like I'm always going to burn all my hard work if I do that. And there you have it, Twice Baked Honeynut Squash. Do yourself a favor, make this recipe, enjoy your life to the fullest. Make honeynut squash your new favorite squash of fall and winter, and then you can thank me later. Let me know if you try it out. I want to hear what you think, and I thank you for watching. Take care.